Started by Bill Gates' daughter, 23 years old. Look, it has big backers.
Forbes 30 under 30.
What does this latest news mean for this company, which has faced some bad news before?
Some of its business partners have suspended working with them while they carry out deeper investigations.
For years, Phoebe Gates insisted that whatever she built would behave alone, untouched by her father's fortune or the weight of his name. That promise is now colliding with a controversy so serious that legal commentators are openly discussing prison time, and the internet is convinced her billionaire father is watching every headline with growing fury. Whether or not Bill Gates has actually said a word about it, the silence itself has become part of the drama, and what's unfolding at his daughter's company is far bigger than a simple public relations headache. Phoebe Gates built her name as the youngest child of Bill Gates and Melinda French Gates, a Stanford graduate who grew up surrounded by wealth most people can't imagine, yet spent years trying to prove she didn't need any of it. Alongside her college roommate and fellow Stanford graduate Phia, she co-founded Phia, a shopping browser extension designed to help everyday consumers compare prices, hunt down discount codes, and shop more sustainably across thousands of retail websites. It was pitched as the anti-impulse buy app, something that would nudge shoppers towards smarter, more conscious spending instead of mindless consumption. The idea caught on fast. Within a couple of years, Phia had landed spots on Forbes 30 under 30 and Time's Emerging Leaders list, and a long roster of famous faces, including Sydney Sweeney, Paris Hilton, Jessica Alba, Karlie Kloss, and Mindy Kaling, either backed the company financially or lent it their public support. On paper, it looked like exactly the kind of self-made success Phoebe had always said she wanted. Behind the polished image, though, Phia's business model depended heavily on affiliate marketing, the system where a company earns a commission every time it sends a paying customer to a retailer. In theory, Phia made money by genuinely helping people find better deals and then getting credit when those people bought something. In practice, according to a Bloomberg investigation published in July 2026, the company's browser extension was doing something very different. Bloomberg reported that Phia's software was allegedly inserting its own tracking cookie into a shopper's browser during checkout, effectively claiming credit and commission for purchases the company had nothing to do with, sometimes overriding tracking codes that belonged to other creators or affiliate marketers entirely. In the industry, this practice has a name: cookie stuffing. It's widely banned in affiliate contracts precisely because it lets one company siphon commissions away from whoever actually earned them. When Bloomberg first approached Phia about the allegations, the company's response was fairly simple. A spokesperson said Phia had only discovered the misattribution issue within the previous 24 hours and that the team had worked through the night to fix it. It was framed as an unfortunate technical glitch, something caught quickly and handled responsibly. For a few weeks, that explanation mostly held. Then, in mid-August, Bloomberg came back with a follow-up investigation that changed the entire shape of the controversy. According to that new reporting, which cited internal Slack messages reviewed by Bloomberg and multiple people familiar with the matter, Phoebe Gates and Phia had allegedly known about the disputed cookie-dropping features for at least 7 months before the company claimed to have just discovered them. Bloomberg reported that Gates herself sent a message on December 18, 2025, asking colleagues to confirm whether the automatic cookie placement feature was active across every retail partner Phia worked with. That single message is now at the center of the entire scandal, because it directly contradicts the idea that anyone at Phia only learned about the issue in the final days before Bloomberg's reporting went public. Bloomberg additionally reported that in a separate internal exchange, Kiani pushed for the cookies to stay active even after an engineer flagged that doing so violated compliance rules the company had agreed to. If accurate, that detail suggests this wasn't a case of a rogue feature slipping through unnoticed. It suggests a conscious choice to keep a lucrative but questionable practice running. The financial numbers behind the allegations are hard to ignore. Bloomberg reported that Phia's average daily revenue collapsed from roughly $80,000 down to somewhere between $10,000 and $28,000 almost immediately after the disputed features were switched off on July 7, which, notably, was the same day Bloomberg first reached out to the company for comment. Internal figures reportedly reviewed by Bloomberg suggested that in June alone, cookie stuffing accounted for roughly 51% of the merchandise value Phia claimed credit for. A Phia spokesperson has since pushed back on that specific percentage, calling the methodology behind it flawed and the number exaggerated, but the company has not disputed that the disabled features caused a steep and immediate drop in revenue. Bloomberg's later reporting also identified additional cookie-related features beyond the one Phia originally acknowledged, including one internally described as capable of firing a tracking cookie automatically every couple of hours on certain sites, regardless of whether a shopper had interacted with Phia at all. Retailers reportedly affected by the disputed attribution included major names like Nike and Nordstrom, companies that depend on accurate tracking to know exactly which partner actually earned a commission. This is where the legal questions start getting serious. Corporate attorney Ariel Givner posted publicly that cookie stuffing of this kind is typically treated as federal wire fraud under U.S. law, and that a conviction on comparable conduct could theoretically carry a maximum sentence of up to 20 years in federal prison, along with fines and restitution. That number spread fast online and turned an affiliate marketing dispute most people had never heard of into a viral headline about a billionaire's daughter potentially facing decades behind bars. It's worth being precise about what that figure actually means, though. 20 years is a statutory maximum tied to certain wire fraud convictions in general, not a sentence anyone has received or is likely to receive for this specific situation. No criminal charges have been filed against Phoebe Gates, Sophia Kiani, or Phia as a company. Nobody has been convicted of anything. Allegations reported by journalists, even well-sourced ones backed by internal documents, are not the same thing as a courtroom finding of guilt, and any actual criminal case would require prosecutors to prove intent beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a much higher bar than a viral tweet or a scathing headline. Still, the reputational damage is already very real, regardless of what happens legally. Phia has responded to the newer allegations by saying it is reversing transactions it now considers improperly attributed, and that it has hired a dedicated head of compliance to prevent similar issues going forward. What the company's public statements have conspicuously avoided doing is directly addressing the core accusation that its founders knew about the disputed practice for months before telling the public and the press otherwise. That gap between what Phia has said and what the leaked internal messages allegedly show is exactly what's keeping this controversy alive. It's no longer just a question of whether a tracking cookie was misused. It's a question of honesty, and whether two young founders who built their public identities partly around ethical, conscious consumerism were quietly running something that undercut the very retailers and creators they claim to support. For Phoebe specifically, the timing and substance of these allegations sting in a very particular way. She has spent years, in interviews, in essays for Vogue and Teen Vogue, on her podcast Burnouts with Sophia Kiani, insisting that Phia would prove she could build something real without leaning on her father's money or his name recognition. She's talked openly about anxiety, about how much of herself to reveal publicly, about the strange experience of being a Gates trying to carve out an identity that isn't defined by that surname. She's also spoken candidly about the toll that baseless conspiracy theories targeting her father have taken on her personal relationships over the years, describing how growing up as a Gates came loaded with expectations and scrutiny long before Phia ever existed. This time, though, the scrutiny isn't about wild internet conspiracy theories or unfounded rumors about her father's philanthropic work. It's about internal Slack messages allegedly written by her about a company she runs, describing decisions she and her co-founder allegedly made. As for Bill Gates himself, there is no verified public statement from him addressing any of this. He hasn't posted about it, hasn't been quoted commenting on it, and as of now there's no confirmed account of what conversations, if any, are happening privately between him and his daughter. That silence is exactly what's fueling so much of the speculation driving headlines like the one framing him as furious. People online have filled that silence with their own assumptions, some imagining a tense standoff at home, others assuming he's staying quiet strategically to avoid making things worse. The truth is nobody outside that family actually knows how he feels about any of this, and it's worth being honest about that instead of pretending a confirmed reaction exists when it doesn't. What is confirmed is that his name and his fortune have become part of the conversation whether it is commented or not, because critics argue that even Phia's rapid rise, its celebrity backers, its media attention, was never fully separate from the advantages that come with being his daughter, regardless of how hard Phoebe worked to build the company itself. Online reaction has been split between mockery and genuine anger. Plenty of commenters have pointed out the irony of someone with Phoebe's level of privilege allegedly engaging in a scheme designed to quietly take money away from smaller creators and affiliate marketers who don't have anywhere near her resources. Others have gone further, throwing around loaded words like fraud and dishonesty as though the legal questions were already settled, which they aren't. A smaller, more cynical corner of the internet has tried to tie this back to Bill Gates himself, suggesting some kind of pattern of dishonesty runs in the family, a claim that has zero supporting evidence and says a lot more about how eager people are to tear down high-profile founders than it does about anything the Gates family has actually done. What happens from here largely depends on information that hasn't become public yet. Phia is reportedly working through transaction reversals with its retail and brand partners, trying to rebuild trust with the affiliate networks and companies it worked with, which may prove far harder than fixing the software itself, since trust in this industry is built almost entirely on accurate, honest tracking. Whether prosecutors ever take a serious look at the allegations remains genuinely uncertain, and it's entirely possible this resolves as a civil dispute between Phia and the retailers or affiliate marketers who say they were shortchanged, rather than anything approaching a criminal case. What does seem certain is that the internal Slack messages Bloomberg has reported on are going to keep resurfacing, because they go directly to the one question Phia's public statements still haven't clearly answered, not whether the cookie stuffing happened, which the company has more or less acknowledged, but whether Phoebe Gates and Sophia Kiani knew about it the entire time they were telling the public otherwise. So where does that leave Phoebe Gates and the company she once described as proof she could succeed on her own terms? For now, in a much more complicated place than she probably imagined when Phia was landing magazine covers and celebrity endorsements. The brand that was supposed to represent conscious, sustainable, honest shopping is now facing accusations that strike at exactly those values. And the daughter who spent years trying to convince the world she didn't need her father's name to succeed now finds that very same name attached to headlines she almost certainly never wanted written. Do you think Phia can survive this, or is the damage already done? Let us know what you think, and stick around for more as new details come out. Like, subscribe, and follow for more.